Teachers of Reddit, what is the most ridiculous excuse for unfinished homework that you've ever heard? A kid, high school, claimed that he couldn't do his homework because his grandmother wouldn't give him back his textbook, which he had taken in retaliation for his theft of her wooden leg. If this is true, he should have taken her to court over it. He would have won easily. She wouldn't have a leg to stand on. The fifth time the same student said he lost his homework running from a dog that was chasing him on the way home. I've got the opposite story. A teacher lost my homework he marked as he left it in his shed and it got eaten by slugs. He did show me the slug eaten paper and gave me full marks for it, so it wasn't all bad. Lately it's always I couldn't access the file. Or my personal favorite. The student facing interface was acting up like okay, but you have my email. I have a no questions asked extension policy for every assignment. And I assigned this to you 5 days ago. The student claimed he put it in a room in his house. He then forgot the room existed. He was at a loss to explain where his homework was. He was upset to think he must have imagined doing it. He apologized to me. The next week, to his amazement, he found the room. And more amazingly, he found his homework. He handed it in that week. Now this may seem like nonsense, but it turns out he had an operation to remove a tumor from his brain when he was 10. One of the outcomes was a strange side effect that for a short period he could utterly forget a room or more in his house. True story. Confirmed from his mother and sister. I was a TA during uni. They sent me an email. Sorry, computer is broken, I'll need an extension. This was early 2000s, so where were they emailing from? If it was the computer lab, well then, that's where they could do the assignment. But more than that, they were on my ICQ. I let students add me for extra help, so I saw them online pretty much all weekend. I mean, if their computer worked well enough for that and to look at pictures of kitties, how could they not complete their work? I did the homework the day you gave it to us, which is 1 week ago. Except that I did in an old rough copy of mine, and yesterday when I got back from school, Dad sold all of our old stationeries for petty cash. I was so mad at my dad. I didn't do my homework to teach him a lesson. Could you please call home and tell him about this? I couldn't help but laugh XD. Edit. I called home and told his dad to get him a chess set. Because this guy can't think. Taught instrumental music down in South Texas. So I basically never gave any sort of homework outside of practicing. 6th grade. Gave the kiddos a super basic theory sheet to complete that was due back in 2 days since I had a dentist appointment the next day. When I'm collecting the sheets, a trombone kid tells me my grandma stole my homework in Mexico and wouldn't give it back. Turns out they were visiting his grandparents over the border outside Matamoros, and his grandma really wanted something of his to hang on her refrigerator. So she took the homework he had just finished and put it up. Kid protested, but she wouldn't relent. So he snapped a pic as proof. Graded the sheet from the picture. Kid got an A. I got a story. Edit. Thank you for the awards and kind words. Hope this little story from the beautiful Rio Grande Valley brightens someone's day. My senior year in high school, I was doing a project with another kid in my class. The day it was due, he was walking to school with it and he got hit by a car and died. It was terribly sad and it was big news. The next day the teacher asked where my project board was and I tell him the kid was carrying it when he died. The arsehole straight up asked if I knew where it ended up. Sorry teacher. I didn't think to call and ask his grieving mother if she happens to know where the homework of her not even buried yet son is. Like that is on anyone's priority list. Asshole. Not a teacher. But happened in my class. Student was constantly late to first period. Also hardly ever brought in his homework in. One day, teacher asked him why he was late and why no homework. My sister burned down the house this morning. Everyone laughed. The kid got up and left. Turns out, his sister did burn down the house. Left her curling iron on some paper or something. Not a teacher. Not a teacher. But we had a report due and I waited until the last minute like always. I slept through class mostly and one day I was abruptly woken up and asked for my report and I said half asleep. I didn't do it because my mom died. The teacher was disgusted that I would say something so cruel and sent me to the principal's office. The teacher was called into the principal's office after they found out I wasn't joking and was so apologetic. I wasn't trying to be a jerk about it. I was just tired. I ran out of pencil ink. Had a student get badly injured in a terrible car crash. She had to have surgery on her face. Most of us excused her from finals. Some CNT teachers made her come in. Her face was all swollen and her mouth was hanging like she'd had a stroke because she hadn't had the surgery yet. A friend of mine had a dog that tore her homework to pieces. Our teacher only spoke English, which is not our first language. And my friend didn't know how to say tear apart in English, so she instead said my dog ate it. He laughed and didn't believe her. Obligatory not a teacher. But one of my classmates came with an elaborate story of how he couldn't do his homework because his dad had to leave that night because he was being deployed overseas and that it was short notice, so a lot of helping and packing and blah 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 other stuff had to be done. The dude had it done so well that not only did he manage to waste 10 minutes of the lesson but also convince the teacher enough to even get a thank you to your father for his service to the country. Towards the end of the period, the kid gets a call to the office that his dad is here to pick him up for a doctor's appointment. He had to do the homework 5 times for lying. It was a long ass homework. I sent it by one of the major express companies. And they told me that the package had been opened and emptied. They checked their security cameras at their hub center. And found nothing. They are just as baffled as I am. I get kids who tell me they were cutting class, came late, slept through, talked through directions so they didn't hear the assignment, know how to do it so they don't have to do it. Not a teacher. And I actually finished my homework. I was in 4th grade. And we were doing a spring cleaning. And emptying our binders of anything from the previous unit. I guess I was being too slow. Because my teacher just grabbed my binder. And shook all of its contents out into the garbage. Including my homework. I told my mom what happened. And she told me to just be upfront about it. And to not worry. The next day I went up to my teacher, instead of collecting our work. She would have us bring it to her. And the conversation went something like this. Where's your homework? You threw it out. I threw it out. Yes. She didn't speak to me after that. The new version of this is just uploading a blank document to the online Dropbox and playing dumb. Gee. Professor. I'm not sure why that's blank. How weird. Isn't that weird? Well. Here is my paper 2 days after the due date. You can actually create a Word file with random text. Edit it with Notepad and delete some symbols. When you try to open it, it will fail. Empty files work too, but if you add some random text, the file size is more believable. This is a little off topic, but the question reminded me of this. Back in 2nd grade in the mid 80s for me, I had a mean teacher. One time I didn't do my homework. She asked why and I told her I didn't feel like doing it because I had a headache from listening her talk all day. She gave me a paddling, which was the norm back then. She then asked me if I was going to start doing my homework. I told her no because my butt hurts now. I'm going to have to tend to that when I get home instead of doing homework. It was worth it because it made the class laugh. I taught math and science to a grade 7 class last year. The work a student handed in was not in their own handwriting, so I called the parents. The dad admitted to doing the work for him because my son's going to be in the NHL. He doesn't need to do math and science in grade 7. This kid wasn't even the best player on his rep team. A student told me she had a bad dream about her cousin taking her and her dog on a road trip in a Ferrari. I never quite understood how having a dream about a Ferrari road trip made someone not be able to complete work. Not a teacher. But one of my classmates said that their dog ate their homework. 1. She has a cat too. The homework was online. Took him a couple bites. This country has a couple long weekends. But the students want to get a couple more days off on top of it. So on like Tuesdays and Wednesdays before the holiday I start getting messages about people's dead grandmothers. It's never the grandfather. How many f***ing grannies are dying out there? I am gonna starting asking for a picture of the body. Not a teacher here. But one of my classmates said that another classmate ate his math homework. The sad part was, it was no excuse. It was the truth. I saw it with my own eyes. But the teacher obviously didn't believe him. I broke my back. As she walked towards my desk. I believe she was going to give a different excuse or at least mention a different body part, but the panic overwhelmed her and she went with her back. Both sadly and hilariously, I couldn't help but give her a "are you dumb?" face. Not a teacher, but one of my classmates tried. I was mugged on the way to school and they took my bag with all my homework in it. "What's that on your shoulder?" "Dart." "It appears to be my bag, sir." So not my story, but a good friend of mine's. He got hit by a car on his bicycle when he was 13. Broke a dozen bones and was in a wheelchair for 3 months. Plates and wrists. The whole 9 yards. Fast forward 4 years, we were seniors in high school. Who else but the guy who hit him years ago was our history teacher. He didn't do a final report. His excuse: "I have a plate and 4 screws in my wrist from being hit by a car. I couldn't type for that long." Apostrophe. FK got a free pass. Edit. UPS lost the flash drive. When I was a kid, I once told my teacher I forgot to get around to it. To which he immediately scolded me and shouted, "You forgot or you didn't get around to IT? Which is IT?" Scared the shit out of kid me. This is legit and too ridiculous to be a lie. This was from a parent at the Catholic high school where I taught at the time. Close bracket. Paraphrasing because I can't find the original, which I kept. "Please excuse the late homework. Our pet cat defecated on it." And yes, defecated was the word they used. Another one of those, not a teacher but. In 6th grade English class we had to do a listening exercise with a CD. I didn't have a CD player but I had a PS2, but the PS2 couldn't read the disc, so I told that to my teacher and she didn't believe me and tried to prove me wrong by putting the CD into the CD player they have at school. She said, "See? The CD does work." I said, "I never said the CD doesn't work. I said my PS2 can't read the CD." People laughed at me. I hated that time of my life. Not a teacher but an excuse. I used to have this little Jack Russell named Rocky that would eat absolutely everything it came across. One evening he was chilling out on the couch next to me. While I was going over an English essay I'd spent hours writing in my workbook. I get up to go to the bathroom, leaving my book on the couch. I get a bit sidetracked. Make some food and come back to find my essay covered in dog chunder, soaked all the way through, with a random bolt amongst the mess with no way to salvage it. Next day teacher asks me where my essay is. I tell her my dog ate a bolt and threw up on it. I get kicked out of the lesson for being ridiculous. Life can be tough. Not a teacher, sorry. So my friend had forgotten to do the homework over the weekend, so he told our math teacher some bullshit excuse of going bungee jumping. Our teacher joked that she needed proof since she knew he was lying. So that night he sent me pictures of his face and I put it onto some GoPro footage I found on YouTube. Originally I tried to make it look good, but we thought it would be funnier if it was really shitty. So the next morning we show it to her in class and she, being the good sports, I laughed and excused him from the homework since he put such effort in to avoid doing it. Edit. I don't know if ridiculous, but a classmate of mine changed his profile picture on Facebook with a candle on black background, signifying death of a family member, with the caption, "We will miss you, Aunt Laura." Hundreds of people offered their condolences. I messaged him asking what happened and he said it was fake just so our professor would give him a week of extra time to mourn because he hasn't finished an important project yet. 2 months in and the teacher still hasn't found him out on it. I can't decide if this is a smart move or a dick move. Not a teacher, but when I was in school my elderly geography teacher told us about a boy he went to school with. He didn't do his homework one day and his excuse was the sow gave birth last night. Their teacher wouldn't hear it and caned him for not doing his homework. The next day the boy's father came in a rage to tell off the teacher. Turns out the boy was a farm kid and one of their pigs went into labor and had struggled to give birth that night, so the whole family had to get involved. The teacher was really embarrassed and had to apologize to the kid. Turns out she didn't believe him because she didn't know that so was what you call a female pig. Not a teacher, but this kid in class literally stood up and said I burned it. And yes, he got detention. Not ridiculous but true and unusual. During the final I came to my English students at Vermilion Community College in 1994, Ely. MN. A student showed up 30 minutes late for the final. Huffing and with cameras splattered in blood. Mr. X. I just got my buck about a mile from campus and it's out there freshly dressed but not safe. Can I retake the apostrophe? Go. Go, I replied. Congrats. Meat waits for no man. But the final exam, devoid of blood and viscera, will be waiting for you. Bring me some meat. Apostrophe. And off he went among a smattering of laughter. And I got a few pounds of ground venison which were delicious. Haha, this brings back some memories. Not a teacher. This was a close friend of mine. My mum chucked it in the bin. Basically her mom is obsessed with cleaning. She hated the slightest bit of clutter. My friend had done her homework and must not have tidied it away clearly enough for her mother, so she threw it away. She only realized the next morning. There she was telling the teacher in class. What could he do? Yell at her mom and give her detention? The parent was involved in the excuse. He was visibly annoyed but she got off no problems. In case anyone is in dire need of a get out of homework card that guarantees no consequences. Here it is. Piano teacher here. Had a young student say his mom went shopping so he couldn't practice. So his mom went shopping all week. Another time during a Zoom lesson. Saw a student's dog literally eating her homework. Was funny as heck and luckily already graded. I was a middle school science teacher. My cat ate about 12 different students' homework the first time I took papers home to grade. I had no idea my cat loved paper so much. But I got up the next morning and the stack of papers was shredded. My students thought it was hilarious when I told them. I'm sorry. My cat ate your homework. Not a teacher. Not quite homework. But the most ridiculous excuse for behavior I've ever heard came yesterday. Kid types bitches in chat and claims that he did it by accident because he was trying to answer the question we asked and was starting with the word which. This is doubly ridiculous because we weren't answering in the Zoom chat. We had a separate web app. He had been answering all the previous questions and successfully for the first 35 minutes of class. I pulled him into a one-on-one breakout room and he doubled down on the lie rather than owning up to it. Not a teacher, but I had a classmate who was blind and had a seeing eye dog. One day he told the teacher that his dog ate his homework. He did homework through some braille device thingy, and his dog looked genuinely guilty. She said that's not good enough and the dog promptly vomited up paper with typing on it all over the floor. Was never asked for his homework in that class for the rest of the year. I guess she turned a blind eye towards him for the rest of the year. I went to the Ren Fair with a campus activities group at my college. It was the day before I had a creative writing assignment due, but I was pretty close to done and we were supposed to be back by 7 PM. Plenty of time to finish. Or, you know, it would have been had our bus not gotten struck by lightning. We were about 2 hours from campus, so the replacement showed up at 7 and we all got home after 9. I'm going to go the other way with this. I remember in 6th grade a good 80% of the class didn't do a homework assignment. Our teacher went desk by desk asking each of us why. By the time she got to me, every excuse in the book had been used. So I just told the truth, I don't have an excuse. I just didn't do it. I thought maybe she would respect the honesty. Nope. Apparently it was far more disrespectful. Funny related story. I have a sister who is a couple years younger. She ended up having some of the same teachers I'd had. Some of whom I had stayed in contact with afterwards. Well, and I was in high school. I ran into my former teacher, her teacher at the time. She mentioned that she got a book report from my sister on a book that was fairly obscure. So obscure, in fact, that the only time the teacher had ever seen somebody read that book was when I had read it. She then told me to tell my sister that if she was going to steal my work, she should make sure to change the date on it. 2. Geez, off the top of my head. There was the time one of my 12th graders didn't have a big paper he needed to submit. Rather than embarrass him, I took him aside later in the class and asked him why he didn't have it. He was the type of kid who usually did all of his work on time. He got weirdly shifty, so I took him outside and was just like, "What's the deal?" And he goes, "Well, like, you always say to just be honest, right? Like no guilt trips." So yeah, I lost my virginity last night and passed out at her house. And I wasn't allowed to be there. But we both fell asleep. And her dad chased me out today and my backpack is actually still there now. I couldn't decide if this was a weird adolescent humble brag or weird adolescent candor. Either way, he sounded honest to me. I told him to just let me know when he got his stuff back and we'd sort it out. Obligatory, not a teacher but someone in my Algebra 1 class used the excuse my girl gave me a hickey. He got suspended. Not a teacher anymore, but I had a student tell me at the beginning of class, "MR. A condiment? I didn't finish my homework last night on account of 5 of my family members got blowed up when their house exploded. Also, my cousin got shot and killed. Did you hear about the shooting at X yesterday? That was my cousin. None of this happened. Of course." Which I confirmed by offering my sympathies to her mother when she came to pick her up. I mean, why did she kill the cousin? 2. Leave some family members around. Olivia. You may need another excuse tomorrow. SMH. My son couldn't hand his homework in because a duck flew into our kitchen, panicked and landed on the kitchen table. Despite her panic, the duck spotted some Rice Krispies and started to eat them out of the bowl, splashing milk and cereal all over the homework. Then, the duck grabbed the homework page, I presume cause it was covered in cereal, and flew off with it. Not sure the teacher ever believed us. Not a teacher but this kid in my 11th grade English class. Teacher. Why didn't you submit your essay last night? Kid. My internet wasn't working. I sent you an email about it. Mind you, he sent the email before the due date time. It's possible that he could send the email through cellular data, but couldn't upload his homework through the phone. This actually happened to me a few weeks ago. I had a misbehaving dog from age 12-16 until she got older and calmed down and fostered for a dog breed rescue. The dog did eat homework and once my math book, but I hated math. So I stood there and said, "Semi-bad dog. Semi-bad dog." Happened just a few days ago. Student told me that the work is too difficult for him to do. The work in question? Handwriting practice exercise. Edit to add. Should have been more detailed. This kid has no difficulty finishing the handwriting practice exercise. And he has pretty good handwriting. He finished it in 5 minutes after I told him to complete it in class. He has this habit of saying that the work is too difficult for him to do when he did not finish his work. And this behavior is consistent across subjects.